Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Aurora, and welcome to Twin Flame Journey, a space where we explore the deeper meaning behind soul connections, divine timing, and the path that leads two hearts back to union. If you've been feeling the signs, you're in the right place.
What if the true purpose of a twin flame union was never just about romance? For many people who discover the concept of twin flames, the story seems simple at first. Two souls meet. They recognize an intense connection. They go through challenges, and eventually they reunite in a harmonious relationship. It sounds like a spiritual love story, one that promises a happy ending after a long and painful journey. But what if that belief only reveals part of the truth? What if the moment twin flames finally come together is not the end of a journey, but the beginning of something far greater? This is where many people misunderstand the deeper meaning of twin flame union. They see union as the ultimate reward, a moment when all the pain, separation, and emotional chaos finally disappears. They imagine that once the two people reunite, life becomes peaceful, easy, and perfect. Yet the reality is often very different. For many twin flames who reach union, something surprising begins to happen. The connection between them starts to shift. The relationship no longer revolves only around personal happiness or romantic fulfillment. Instead, it begins to move toward a larger purpose, one that extends beyond the two individuals themselves. And this realization can feel both beautiful and confusing, because suddenly, the relationship is not just about us anymore. It becomes about the impact those two souls can have on the world around them. To understand this, we need to look at the deeper spiritual philosophy behind the twin flame journey. Unlike many other types of relationships, twin flames are often described as two expressions of the same soul essence. This idea suggests that before incarnation, the soul's energy divided into two complementary polarities, often referred to as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. These two energies then enter life separately, each experiencing different lessons, wounds, and paths. For years, sometimes even decades, they may live completely different lives. They grow up in different environments, face different challenges, and develop their own identities. But underneath all those differences, something invisible continues to connect them. A subtle energetic thread. Many people describe the moment of meeting their twin flame as something almost impossible to explain. It feels familiar, intense, and strangely significant, even if they have only just met. Some describe it as looking into a mirror. Others describe it as feeling like they have finally come home. But what most people don't realize at that moment is that this connection is not designed only to create comfort or happiness. In fact, the twin flame connection is often one of the most challenging relationships a person can experience.
Why?
Because twin flames trigger each other's deepest wounds. Every unresolved fear, insecurity, childhood trauma, or emotional block begins to surface when these two energies interact. It's as if the presence of the other person activates parts of the soul that have been hidden for years. Suddenly, emotions that were once buried start to rise. Old patterns become impossible to ignore, and the relationship becomes a powerful catalyst for transformation. At first, this process can feel overwhelming. Many twin flames experience phases of intense attraction followed by conflict, confusion, or separation. One partner may pull away while the other tries to hold on. This dynamic is often called the runner and chaser phase. But even this painful stage has a deeper purpose. The separation forces both individuals to look inward. Instead of relying on the other person to provide validation or emotional security, they are pushed to confront their own healing journey. They must learn to stand on their own. They must discover who they are outside the relationship. And most importantly, they must learn to love themselves in a way they never have before. This is why many twin flame journeys involve years of personal growth before true union becomes possible. Union does not occur simply because two people want it. It happens when both souls reach a level of inner balance, when the divine masculine energy becomes emotionally mature and grounded, when the divine feminine energy becomes stable, self-loving, and no longer dependent on external validation. Only then can the relationship move into a new phase. And when that phase begins, something remarkable starts to unfold. The connection becomes calmer. The emotional chaos that once defined the relationship slowly fades. Instead of constant conflict, there is understanding. Instead of emotional chasing, there is mutual presence. Instead of fear, there is trust. For the first time, both individuals feel safe in the connection. But this stability creates a new realization, one that many twin flames did not expect. Once the intense healing phase begins to settle, a deeper question naturally arises. Why did this journey happen in the first place? Why did two people have to go through such profound transformation just to be together? For many twin flames, the answer gradually becomes clear. The relationship was never only about the relationship. It was about awakening. Not only awakening each other, but awakening the people around them. Because when two individuals go through such deep healing, their energy begins to change. The way they speak, the way they interact with others, and the way they respond to life all begin to reflect a new level of awareness. And people notice. Friends begin asking for advice. Strangers feel comfortable sharing their stories. People who are struggling with heartbreak, trauma, or self-doubt feel drawn to the calm and understanding that this couple carries. Without even trying, their presence becomes healing. This is where the idea of a shared soul mission begins to emerge. Some twin flames feel called to help others through coaching, therapy, or spiritual teaching. Others create art, music, or writing that inspires people to heal. Some simply live their lives in a way that demonstrates what growth, forgiveness, and emotional maturity look like. The form of the mission can be different for every pair, but the essence is the same. Their journey becomes a source of light for others. And this is why twin flame union is so much more than a romantic reunion. It represents the alignment of two souls who have done the inner work necessary to become stable, compassionate, and conscious human beings. When those two energies come together, they create something powerful. Not because they are perfect, not because they never struggle, but because they have learned how to transform pain into wisdom. And that wisdom has the ability to guide others. So if you are currently on the twin flame journey, whether you are in separation, healing, or moving toward union, it is important to remember one thing. The purpose of this connection may be far greater than you realize right now. The struggles you face may be shaping you into someone who can help others navigate their own darkness. The lessons you learn may become the very tools that inspire someone else to keep going. And the love you eventually build may show the world that transformation is possible. Because in the end, twin flame union is not simply about two people finding each other. It is about two souls remembering who they truly are. And once that remembrance happens, the impact can reach far beyond their own relationship. Why do twin flames meet at all? If the journey is filled with emotional intensity, confusion, separation, and years of healing, one might naturally ask a simple question. Why would two souls choose such a difficult path in the first place? After all, most relationships in life seem to follow a simpler pattern. Two people meet, they connect, they build a life together, and over time their relationship either grows stronger or gradually fades away. The process may include challenges, but it rarely carries the same level of spiritual intensity that twin flames often describe. Yet the twin flame encounter feels completely different. People who experience it often say that the connection arrived at a moment when their life was already shifting in some way. Sometimes it happens after a painful breakup, a personal crisis, or a period of deep questioning about the meaning of life. Other times it appears during a phase of rapid growth, when a person is already beginning to search for something deeper than ordinary success or comfort. And when the meeting happens, it rarely feels random. There is often a strange sense of timing, as if two lives that were moving separately suddenly intersect at exactly the right moment. Conversations flow effortlessly. Similar interests or experiences begin to appear. And even the differences between them seem strangely complementary. But beneath this surface connection lies something much deeper. The twin flame meeting is often described as a spiritual activation. Before this encounter, many people may already have a certain level of self-awareness. They might be reflective, curious about personal growth, or drawn to spirituality in some form. But the presence of their twin flame seems to accelerate this process dramatically. It is as if a hidden switch inside the soul has been turned on. Suddenly, emotions feel more intense. Self-reflection becomes unavoidable. Questions about purpose, identity, and healing begin to arise more frequently. Why does this happen? One way to understand this is to imagine the twin flame connection as a mirror. In ordinary relationships, people often see only parts of themselves reflected back. They may notice similarities in personality, shared values, or compatible lifestyles. These reflections can feel comforting because they reinforce the identity a person already knows. But the twin flame mirror works differently. It does not only reflect the pleasant parts of the self. It reflects everything: the strengths and the fears, the confidence and the insecurity, the love and the unhealed wounds. When two twin flames interact, they begin to notice aspects of themselves that they may have ignored for years. Sometimes these realizations feel inspiring. They may see their own potential more clearly through the eyes of the other person. But other times, the mirror reveals things they would rather avoid. For example, someone who has always struggled with abandonment fears may suddenly feel those fears intensify when their twin flame pulls away emotionally. A person who avoids vulnerability might find themselves overwhelmed by feelings they cannot easily control. These experiences can be confusing. Many people initially believe that the intensity of the connection means the relationship itself is the problem. They may assume that the other person is the source of their emotional turbulence. But with time and reflection, a deeper understanding begins to emerge. The twin flame is not creating the wounds. They are revealing them. This is one of the core reasons why twin flames meet, to trigger a process of awakening and healing that might never have occurred otherwise. Think about how easily people can spend years repeating the same emotional patterns. Someone might continue choosing partners who reinforce their insecurities. Another person might hide behind work or distractions to avoid confronting deeper feelings. Without a strong catalyst, these patterns can remain hidden for a long time. But the twin flame connection acts as that catalyst. Because the energetic bond between the two souls is so powerful, it becomes almost impossible to ignore unresolved issues. The relationship pushes both individuals to grow beyond their old identities. And this growth is rarely comfortable. In many twin flame stories, the initial phase of the relationship feels magical. The connection seems effortless, conversations last for hours, and both people feel seen and understood in a way they have never experienced before. This stage can feel like destiny. But soon after, the intensity begins to expose deeper layers of the psyche. Old emotional wounds rise to the surface. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of vulnerability. These patterns begin to influence how each person behaves within the relationship. At this point, many twin flame connections enter what is often called the runner and chaser dynamic. One partner may feel overwhelmed by the emotional intensity and begin to withdraw. They may focus on work, distractions, or other relationships to regain a sense of control. The other partner, feeling the sudden distance, may try to hold the connection together. They might seek reassurance, attempt to reconnect, or struggle to understand why the relationship changed so suddenly. From the outside, this dynamic can appear chaotic or even unhealthy. But from a deeper perspective, it serves a powerful purpose. The runner is often being pushed to confront fears of intimacy, vulnerability, and emotional openness. The chaser, on the other hand, is being asked to confront patterns of attachment, dependency, and self-worth. Both individuals are being guided toward the same lesson, learning to find stability within themselves. This is why separation is such a common phase in the twin flame journey. Separation is not simply a breakup. It is a period of profound inner work. During this time, each person is forced to look at their life from a new perspective. Without the constant presence of the other person, they must begin to ask difficult questions. Who am I outside this connection? What fears have been controlling my decisions? What wounds from the past still influence my relationships today? For some people, this stage leads to therapy, spiritual exploration, creative expression, or personal development. Others may experience a complete shift in career, lifestyle, or worldview. Slowly, the identity they once held begins to transform. And something remarkable starts to happen. Instead of focusing only on the other person, they begin focusing on themselves. They learn to set healthier boundaries. They learn to regulate their emotions. They begin to discover what genuine self-love looks like. This is the true foundation of the twin flame journey. It is not about chasing another person until they return. It is about becoming the most authentic version of oneself. And this is precisely why twin flames meet in the first place. Their encounter initiates a spiritual awakening that pushes both individuals toward their highest potential. Without that initial meeting, many of the lessons they are meant to learn might remain dormant for years, or even for an entire lifetime. The twin flame connection simply accelerates the process. In a sense, the relationship acts like a spiritual mirror, a catalyst, and a teacher all at once. It reveals the parts of the self that need healing. It encourages growth that might otherwise feel impossible. And it guides both individuals toward a deeper understanding of who they truly are. Eventually, after enough healing and transformation, the dynamic between the two people begins to change. The emotional chaos that once defined the connection starts to settle. Both individuals become more self-aware. They no longer rely on the relationship to fill emotional voids or validate their worth. Instead, they approach the connection from a place of wholeness. And this is when the possibility of true union begins to emerge. Because twin flames are not meant to reunite as two incomplete individuals seeking to fix each other. They reunite as two healed souls who have learned how to stand independently while still choosing to walk together. When that moment arrives, the purpose of their meeting becomes even clearer. The journey was never simply about finding love. It was about awakening the soul. And that awakening prepares them for something far greater than the relationship itself. Before twin flame union can truly happen, something profound must take place within both individuals. Transformation. Not a small, surface-level change, but a deep internal shift that reshapes the way each person thinks, feels, and experiences life itself. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame journey. Many people believe that union will happen once the two individuals simply find their way back to each other. They imagine that love alone will resolve the tension, heal the wounds, and bring the relationship into harmony. But the truth is much more complex. Union is not created by desire. It is created by alignment. And alignment requires transformation. To understand why this transformation is necessary, we need to look at what happens during the early stages of the twin flame connection. When twin flames first meet, the attraction between them can feel almost magnetic. There is often an immediate sense of familiarity and emotional depth. Conversations feel effortless. Time seems to pass quickly. Both individuals may feel as though they have finally met someone who truly understands them. For a moment, everything seems perfect. But this initial phase is only the surface layer of the connection. Underneath that intense attraction lies a deeper energetic interaction, one that begins to activate hidden emotional patterns within both people. Think of it like a storm forming beneath calm water. At first, everything appears peaceful, but slowly, currents begin to move below the surface. Old fears begin to emerge. Unresolved wounds start to reveal themselves. And emotional triggers become impossible to ignore. This is where the transformation begins. For example, someone who has always struggled with feelings of abandonment might suddenly experience intense anxiety when their twin flame becomes distant. Even a small change in communication can trigger fears of being left behind. Another person who has learned to suppress their emotions might suddenly find themselves overwhelmed by vulnerability in the presence of their twin flame. Feelings they have avoided for years may rise to the surface all at once. These reactions can be confusing and frightening. Many people initially believe that the relationship itself is unstable or toxic. They may wonder why something that felt so beautiful in the beginning has suddenly become so emotionally challenging. But the truth is that the twin flame connection is not creating these emotional wounds. It is illuminating them. The relationship acts like a powerful spotlight shining into the hidden corners of the psyche. It reveals the fears, insecurities, and coping mechanisms that have shaped each person's behavior for years. And once these patterns are exposed, they can no longer remain hidden. This is why the twin flame journey often leads to separation. From a purely emotional perspective, separation can feel devastating. One partner may withdraw from the connection, feeling overwhelmed by the intensity of the bond. The other may feel abandoned, confused about why someone who once seemed so deeply connected is now creating distance. This stage is often described as the runner and chaser dynamic. The runner pulls away, seeking space and emotional safety. The chaser tries to maintain the connection, often hoping that love or persistence will bring the relationship back to its original harmony. Yet beneath this painful dynamic lies a deeper spiritual process. Both individuals are being guided toward inner transformation. For the runner, the journey often involves confronting fears of intimacy, vulnerability, and emotional exposure. Running away may provide temporary relief, but eventually they must face the realization that avoiding connection does not heal the underlying wounds. For the chaser, the journey involves learning to release attachment and develop a stronger sense of self-worth. Instead of seeking validation from the relationship, they are pushed to discover their own inner stability. At first, these lessons can feel incredibly difficult. The chaser may struggle with letting go, believing that the connection must be preserved at all costs. The runner may continue to create distance, believing that emotional independence means avoiding deep relationships. But over time, something begins to shift. Separation creates space for reflection. Without the constant emotional interaction between the two, each person begins to look inward. They start to question their reactions, their fears, and the patterns that shape their behavior. Why do I feel unworthy of love? Why do I fear vulnerability? Why do I become anxious when someone gets close to me? These questions open the door to personal healing. Some people begin exploring therapy or emotional healing practices. Others turn towards spirituality, meditation, or self-reflection. Some may change their lifestyle entirely, choosing careers, environments, or relationships that better support their personal growth. Slowly, the identity they once held begins to evolve. The person who once feared abandonment learns to create emotional security within themselves. The person who avoided vulnerability begins to understand the strength that comes from openness. Both individuals begin releasing the emotional patterns that once controlled their lives. This is the heart of the transformation before union. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious. Instead of reacting automatically to emotional triggers, both people begin to develop awareness of their inner world. They learn to recognize their fears without allowing those fears to dictate their actions. And as this inner work continues, something remarkable begins to happen on an energetic level. The push and pull dynamic that once defined the connection slowly loses its intensity. The chaser no longer feels the need to chase. The runner no longer feels the need to run. Both individuals begin standing firmly in their own emotional center. They learn how to live fulfilling lives independently, rather than waiting for the relationship to provide happiness or validation. And paradoxically, this independence is exactly what makes union possible. Because twin flame union cannot exist between two people who are still trying to fill emotional voids within each other. True union requires two individuals who have already discovered their own wholeness. When that level of self-awareness begins to develop, the connection between twin flames naturally changes. The emotional chaos that once dominated the relationship begins to settle. Communication becomes calmer and more honest. There is less fear, less need for control, and less emotional volatility. Instead of triggering each other's wounds, they begin supporting each other's growth. This is the stage where many twin flames start to realize something important. The journey was never only about being together. It was about becoming the people capable of sustaining a healthy and conscious connection. Without the transformation that occurred during separation, the relationship would likely have repeated the same painful cycles over and over again. But through healing and self-discovery, both individuals have evolved into new versions of themselves. They are no longer the same people who first met. Their priorities have shifted. Their emotional awareness has deepened. And their understanding of love has matured. Love is no longer defined by intensity alone. It is defined by presence, stability, and mutual growth. This transformation is what prepares twin flames for the possibility of true union. Because when two people who have done this inner work come together again, the relationship feels completely different from the beginning. The passion may still be there. The deep recognition may still exist. But now it is supported by emotional balance and spiritual maturity. The connection no longer feels chaotic or overwhelming. Instead, it feels peaceful, grounded, and deeply aligned. And in that quiet alignment, a new chapter of the twin flame journey begins to unfold. For many people on the twin flame journey, union is imagined as the ultimate destination. It is often described as the moment when all the confusion, separation, longing, and emotional chaos finally come to an end. After years of inner work and spiritual growth, the two souls finally meet again in harmony. The pain of the past dissolves, and a peaceful relationship begins. At least, that is how many expect the story to unfold. But when real twin flames finally reach a stable union, they often discover something surprising. Union is not the end of the journey. In many ways, it is only the beginning. This realization can feel both exciting and unexpected. After all the healing, self-reflection, and emotional transformation that led them to this point, many people assume that the hardest part of the journey is now behind them. And in some ways, that is true. The intense push and pull dynamic that once defined the connection usually fades. The runner and chaser patterns dissolve as both individuals learn to stand firmly in their own emotional stability. Instead of reacting to each other's wounds, they begin interacting from a place of understanding and maturity. But as the emotional turbulence settles, something deeper begins to emerge. A new phase of the relationship starts to unfold, one that focuses not only on the connection between the two individuals, but on the purpose that connection serves in the larger world. To understand why this happens, we need to look at the deeper energetic nature of twin flames. Throughout the earlier stages of the journey, both individuals were primarily focused on personal healing. Their experiences forced them to confront their fears, insecurities, and emotional patterns. They learned how to regulate their emotions, develop self-love, and build a life that does not depend entirely on the presence of the other person. This inner work created a foundation of personal stability. And once both individuals reach this level of stability, the energy of the relationship changes. Instead of constantly triggering growth through conflict, the connection begins to generate growth through collaboration. This shift can feel subtle at first. Conversations begin to focus more on shared ideas, visions, and goals. Both people may feel inspired to explore creative projects, personal missions, or ways of contributing to the lives of others. The relationship begins to expand beyond the emotional bond between two people. It becomes a partnership. This is where many twin flames begin to recognize the deeper purpose of their union. The connection was never meant to exist in isolation. It was meant to create a ripple effect. Think about the transformation that both individuals experienced during the journey. Each person had to confront their own shadows, release old patterns, and develop a deeper understanding of love, compassion, and emotional responsibility. Those lessons are incredibly powerful. And when two people who have undergone that level of transformation come together, their combined presence naturally begins to influence the environment around them. Friends may notice the sense of calm and balance they carry. Family members may observe the way they communicate with patience and empathy. Even strangers may feel unexpectedly comfortable sharing their stories with them. This is not something the couple necessarily tries to create. It simply happens. Because people who have truly healed and grown tend to radiate a different kind of energy. They listen more deeply. They judge less quickly. They understand pain without becoming overwhelmed by it. And when two such individuals support each other within a relationship, their energy becomes even more powerful. The relationship becomes a container for growth, not just for themselves, but for others as well. This is why many twin flame unions naturally evolve towards some form of shared purpose. For some couples, This purpose may appear in the form of creative expression. They may write books, create art, produce videos, or share insights that help others understand their own emotional journeys. For others, the mission may take a more direct form of service. They might become counselors, teachers, healers, or guides who help people navigate personal transformation. But a shared mission does not always need to be public or visible. Sometimes the mission is simply to live a life that demonstrates what conscious love looks like. In a world where many relationships are shaped by fear, control, or emotional dependency, a balanced and supportive partnership can itself become a powerful example. Children who grow up witnessing such a relationship learn that love does not have to involve constant conflict or insecurity. Friends who observe the relationship may begin questioning their own patterns and seeking healthier ways of connecting with others. In this way, the influence of a twin flame union can extend far beyond the couple themselves. This realization often leads to an important shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "How can this relationship make me happy?" both individuals begin asking a different question. How can our connection contribute to something greater? This does not mean they stop enjoying the relationship on a personal level. In fact, many twin flames describe union as deeply peaceful and fulfilling. The sense of recognition and emotional safety between them can create a powerful foundation for companionship, creativity, and shared growth. But their happiness is no longer limited to their own experience. It becomes connected to the impact they can create together. This is why union is not simply the final reward after a long spiritual journey. It is the moment when the purpose of that journey begins to reveal itself more clearly. All the healing, the separation, the emotional lessons, they were preparing both individuals for this stage. Without those experiences, they might not have developed the compassion, wisdom, and emotional maturity required to support others. But through the challenges of the twin flame path, they gained something incredibly valuable: perspective. They understand what it feels like to be lost, heartbroken, confused, and searching for answers. And because they have walked through those experiences themselves, they can now offer guidance with genuine empathy. Their words carry authenticity. Their presence carries reassurance. And their relationship becomes proof that transformation is possible. Of course, this new phase of the journey still includes challenges. Union does not eliminate all difficulties in life. Both individuals will continue growing, evolving, and facing new lessons along the way. But the difference is that they now face those challenges together. Instead of triggering each other's fears, they support each other's expansion. Instead of pulling away during moments of difficulty, they learn how to communicate openly and work through obstacles as a team. And through this process, the bond between them continues to deepen. What once began as an intense and sometimes chaotic connection gradually transforms into something far more stable and meaningful. A partnership rooted in awareness. A relationship grounded in mutual respect. A union that extends beyond romance into shared purpose. And this is the deeper truth of twin flame union. It is not simply about two souls finding each other after a long search. It is about what those two souls choose to do once they finally stand side by side. Because when love is combined with awareness, compassion, and purpose, it becomes something incredibly powerful. It becomes a force capable of creating change, not only in the lives of the two individuals involved, but in the lives of everyone they encounter. And that is why the moment of union is not the final chapter of the twin flame journey. It is the beginning of a much larger story. When twin flames finally reach a stable union, something subtle but powerful begins to unfold. The relationship starts to extend beyond the two individuals involved. At first, this shift may not be obvious. The couple may simply feel a new sense of calm and clarity in their lives. Conversations become deeper. Decisions become more aligned. The emotional chaos that once defined their journey fades into the background. But as this new stability settles in, something interesting begins to happen. People start to notice. Friends begin asking questions about relationships, personal growth, or emotional healing. Family members may seek advice during difficult moments in their own lives. Even strangers might feel drawn to open up, sharing their struggles in ways they normally would not. It is as if the presence of these two individuals creates a safe space for others. Why does this happen? Because when people go through deep healing themselves, they naturally develop a level of empathy and awareness that others can feel. Twin flames who have completed much of their personal transformation have usually faced some of the most difficult emotional lessons a person can experience. They have confronted abandonment fears, attachment wounds, insecurities, and patterns that once kept them stuck in cycles of pain. They have learned what it means to lose someone they love. They have learned what it means to let go. They have learned how to rebuild themselves from the inside out. And because of this journey, they develop something incredibly valuable: compassion. Not the superficial kind that simply offers polite words or quick solutions, but a deeper form of compassion that comes from truly understanding what pain feels like. This kind of compassion allows them to listen without judgment, to support without controlling, to guide without forcing answers. And when two people who carry this level of emotional maturity come together in a relationship, their combined energy becomes even more powerful. It creates an environment where healing feels possible. This is why many twin flame unions naturally evolve into some form of shared service to others. But it is important to understand something. Healing others does not always mean becoming a spiritual teacher, therapist, or public figure. The concept of healing can take many forms. For some twin flames, the calling to help others becomes very direct. They may feel inspired to share their story publicly, speaking about the lessons they learned during their journey. Their experiences can help others understand that emotional pain is not a sign of failure. It is often the beginning of transformation. Others may create content that encourages self-awareness and healing. This could include writing books, producing videos, hosting podcasts, or creating art that explores themes of growth, forgiveness, and personal awakening. These forms of expression can reach people across the world who are going through similar struggles. A single story, shared at the right moment, can help someone realize that they are not alone. But not every shared mission needs to be public or visible. Sometimes the healing impact of a twin flame union appears in much quieter ways. For example, imagine a couple who has both spent years healing their emotional wounds before reaching union. When conflicts arise in their relationship, they approach them with patience rather than anger. They listen carefully to each other instead of reacting defensively. Friends who observe this dynamic may begin to notice something different. Instead of dramatic arguments or silent resentment, the couple demonstrates open communication and mutual respect. Over time, this example begins to influence the people around them. Friends may start reflecting on their own relationship patterns. Family members may become more willing to discuss emotions that were previously avoided. Even children growing up in such an environment learn that love can be safe, supportive, and honest. In this way, the healing influence of a twin flame union can spread quietly through everyday life. It does not require fame or recognition. It simply requires authenticity. To understand how powerful this influence can be, consider the ripple effect of emotional healing. When one person heals their wounds, they interact differently with others. They become more patient, more understanding, more capable of responding to conflict without escalating it. And when two people in a partnership both carry this level of awareness, their influence becomes even stronger. Their relationship becomes a living demonstration of what conscious love looks like. People who encounter them may not even fully understand why they feel inspired by the couple. But something about the way they communicate, support each other, and navigate challenges creates a sense of possibility. It shows that relationships do not have to be defined by fear, control, or emotional instability. This example alone can encourage others to begin their own healing journey. And that is one of the most profound forms of service, because healing is contagious. When one person chooses to grow, it often encourages others to do the same. Now, imagine two people working together in alignment with that intention. Their combined presence amplifies the impact. This is why many twin flames eventually discover that their union carries a deeper responsibility. Not a burden, but a calling. They realize that the lessons they learned during their journey can serve a purpose beyond their personal relationship. Every moment of heartbreak they endured taught them something about resilience. Every period of separation forced them to develop self-awareness. Every emotional breakthrough gave them insight into how transformation occurs. All of these experiences become valuable tools. And when they choose to share those tools, whether through conversation, creativity, or simple acts of kindness, they begin helping others heal. This does not mean that twin flames suddenly become perfect or enlightened. They are still human. They will still face challenges, disagreements, and personal growth throughout their lives. But the difference lies in how they approach those experiences. Instead of allowing pain to close their hearts, they use it as an opportunity to deepen their understanding. Instead of projecting their wounds onto others, they take responsibility for their emotional reactions. And when people witness this level of self-awareness within a relationship, it creates something powerful. Hope. Hope that emotional healing is possible. Hope that love can evolve beyond the patterns many people have come to expect. Hope that two individuals can grow together rather than tearing each other apart. This is the true power of twin flame union. It is not only about the love shared between two souls. It is about the healing energy that love can generate when both individuals have done the inner work required to sustain it. And when that energy is directed toward helping others, whether intentionally or simply through the way they live their lives, it begins to transform the world around them. Sometimes in quiet ways, sometimes in visible ways, but always in meaningful ones. Because every person who begins their own healing journey creates another ripple, another opportunity for compassion, another step toward a world where relationships are built not on fear, but on awareness and love. And that ripple often begins with two people who chose to heal themselves first. Twin flames who discovered that their union was not just about finding each other. It was about becoming a source of healing for others. One of the most remarkable transformations that occurs after twin flame union is the quiet shift from personal healing to collective inspiration. At the beginning of the journey, everything feels intensely personal. The emotions are raw. The lessons feel deeply individual. Every challenge seems to revolve around the connection between two people trying to understand each other and themselves. But as healing unfolds and union becomes stable, something unexpected begins to happen. The story of the journey itself becomes meaningful to others. What once felt like a private emotional struggle slowly transforms into a narrative that can inspire people who are walking their own difficult paths. And this shift happens naturally. Not because twin flames are trying to become inspirational figures, but because the experiences they have lived through carry a depth of truth that others can feel. Think about it for a moment. The twin flame journey is not a simple love story. It is a path that often includes heartbreak, separation, self-discovery, forgiveness, and profound emotional growth. People who complete such a journey carry wisdom that cannot easily be taught through theory alone. It is wisdom earned through experience. And when others encounter someone who has walked through intense emotional darkness and emerged with greater compassion, patience, and understanding, that presence becomes deeply inspiring. In many ways, inspiration is simply the visible expression of transformation. When people see someone who has overcome their fears, healed their wounds, and built a healthy relationship from that foundation, it challenges their assumptions about what is possible. It shows them that change is real. It shows them that healing is achievable. And it reminds them that love does not have to remain trapped in cycles of pain. This is why many twin flame unions gradually become a source of inspiration for the people around them. Their journey tells a story. Not a perfect story, but an honest one. A story that includes mistakes, lessons, setbacks, and growth. And those kinds of stories have incredible power. Consider the way human beings naturally respond to storytelling. Facts and advice can be helpful, but stories create emotional connection. When someone hears about another person's struggles and breakthroughs, they begin to see reflections of their own life within that narrative. They begin to think, if they were able to transform their pain, maybe I can too. This is how inspiration spreads. Through shared experiences. Through honesty. Through vulnerability. Twin flames who have reached a balanced union often realize that their journey carries exactly these elements. They know what it feels like to doubt themselves. They remember the confusion of separation. They remember the nights spent wondering if the connection would ever make sense. And because they remember those moments so clearly, they are able to speak about healing in a way that resonates deeply with others. For some couples, this inspiration becomes part of a public mission. They may decide to share their story through writing, social media, public speaking, or creative projects. Their goal is not necessarily to present themselves as spiritual authorities, but simply to offer their experiences as a source of guidance. When people hear real stories of transformation, it helps them feel less alone in their struggles. Imagine someone who is currently experiencing the painful separation stage of their own relationship. They may feel lost, believing that the situation will never improve. Then they encounter the story of a couple who went through similar challenges, but eventually found healing and balance. Suddenly, the impossible begins to feel possible. Hope begins to grow. But inspiration does not always require a public platform. In fact, some of the most powerful examples of inspiration occur quietly in everyday life. A twin flame couple may simply live their lives with authenticity and emotional awareness. They communicate openly, treat each other with respect, and approach conflicts with maturity rather than blame. Friends who spend time around them begin to notice something different. Instead of seeing constant arguments or emotional drama, they observe a partnership based on understanding and growth. This observation alone can spark reflection. People begin asking themselves questions they may never have considered before. Why do I react defensively in my relationships? Why do I avoid emotional conversations? What would happen if I approached my relationships with more awareness? Inspiration often begins with these small moments of realization. When people witness healthier patterns of love and communication, it encourages them to examine their own behavior. And this is where the influence of a twin flame union can become truly transformative. Because inspiration does not force change. It invites it. When someone feels inspired, they begin seeking their own answers. They explore personal growth, emotional healing, or spiritual development because something within them has been awakened. This awakening can lead to incredible changes in a person's life. Someone who once felt trapped in unhealthy relationship patterns may begin setting stronger boundaries. Someone who avoided emotional vulnerability may start learning how to communicate more openly. Someone who felt disconnected from their purpose may begin exploring creative or spiritual pursuits. All of these changes can begin with a single moment of inspiration. And that moment often arises when people encounter others who have walked the path before them. Twin flames who have reached union carry exactly this kind of experiential wisdom. They understand the complexity of emotional transformation. They know that healing is not linear. They know that setbacks and breakthroughs often appear in unexpected ways. And because they have lived through those experiences together, their perspective becomes incredibly valuable to others. Another important aspect of inspiration is authenticity. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are genuine. If someone tries to present themselves as perfect or spiritually superior, it often creates distance rather than connection. But when people share their struggles honestly, acknowledging both their mistakes and their growth, it creates a sense of relatability. Twin flames who share their journey authentically often discover that their vulnerability resonates more strongly than any advice they could offer. Their honesty becomes a bridge between people who are searching for answers and those who have already walked part of the path. Over time, this exchange of experiences begins to create a community. People who were once isolated in their struggles begin connecting with others who understand what they are going through. They support each other. They share insights. They celebrate progress. And slowly, a network of healing begins to form. All of this can grow from the simple act of sharing a story. The story of two individuals who faced intense emotional challenges, committed to their personal growth, and eventually built a conscious relationship based on awareness and mutual respect. This is why twin flame union carries such inspirational potential. It demonstrates something that many people long to believe. That love can evolve. That pain can lead to wisdom. And that transformation is possible even after the most difficult experiences. In the end, inspiration is not about perfection. It is about possibility. It is about showing others that there is another way to live, another way to love, and another way to grow. And when two souls who have walked through darkness choose to share the light they discovered along the way, that light has the power to illuminate paths for many others. This is how twin flames become more than just partners. They become living reminders that healing, growth, and conscious love are truly achievable. One of the most common myths surrounding twin flames is the idea that these two souls complete each other. Many people imagine the twin flame connection as two halves of a broken whole finally coming together. According to this belief, each person is incomplete on their own, and the purpose of union is to fill the emotional and spiritual gaps within each other. At first glance, this idea sounds romantic. The thought that somewhere in the world there is another person destined to complete you can feel comforting. It suggests that once the two of you meet, life will finally make sense. The emptiness will disappear. The loneliness will fade. Everything will fall into place. But the deeper truth of the twin flame journey reveals something very different. Twin flames are not meant to complete each other. They are meant to expand each other. This distinction is incredibly important because the belief that someone else is responsible for completing us can easily lead to unhealthy emotional patterns. When people believe they are incomplete without their partner, they may become dependent on the relationship for their sense of identity. They may look to the other person for constant reassurance, validation, or emotional stability. Over time, this dependency can create pressure within the relationship. Instead of two individuals growing together, the connection begins to revolve around unmet needs and expectations. This dynamic is exactly what the twin flame journey is designed to transform. During the early stages of a connection, many twin flames unconsciously fall into this pattern. The intensity of the bond makes them feel as though they have finally found the missing piece of themselves. For a while, this feeling can be intoxicating. The emotional closeness feels extraordinary. The sense of recognition between the two souls feels almost magical. But eventually, the journey reveals a deeper lesson. No one else can complete us. True union requires wholeness within each individual. This realization often emerges during the separation phase of the twin flame journey. When the connection becomes too intense and one partner pulls away, the other is forced to confront the emotional dependency that may have developed. At first, this experience can be painful. The person left behind may feel as though part of themselves has been taken away. They may believe that happiness is impossible without the other person's presence. But as time passes and healing begins, something important starts to shift. Instead of focusing entirely on the other person, they begin turning inward. They start asking deeper questions. Who am I outside this relationship? What passions, dreams, and interests define my life? What emotional patterns have I been carrying that need healing? This process of self-discovery gradually leads to a powerful realization. Wholeness does not come from another person. It comes from within. As both individuals continue their personal growth, they begin developing stronger identities independent of the relationship. They pursue their own goals, explore their own interests, and build lives that feel meaningful on their own terms. Paradoxically, this independence is exactly what prepares them for a healthier union. Because when two people who are already whole come together, the relationship takes on a completely different energy. Instead of trying to fill emotional voids for each other, they begin sharing their growth. Instead of depending on the relationship for stability, they bring stability into the relationship. Instead of seeking completion, they create expansion. Expansion means that the presence of the other person encourages growth rather than dependency. Each partner inspires the other to explore new ideas, develop new skills, and continue evolving as individuals. For example, one partner may feel inspired to pursue a creative passion they had previously ignored. The other may begin exploring new areas of personal development or spiritual understanding. Rather than feeling threatened by these changes, both individuals support each other's evolution. The relationship becomes a space where growth is encouraged rather than restricted. This dynamic creates something incredibly powerful: mutual expansion. Both people grow stronger not because they rely on each other, but because they inspire each other to become the best versions of themselves. Imagine two trees growing side by side. Each tree has its own roots firmly planted in the ground. Each one grows upward toward the sunlight independently. But their presence beside each other provides support and stability during storms. They do not merge into a single tree. They grow together while remaining distinct. This is what healthy twin flame union often looks like. Two individuals who maintain their individuality while supporting each other's growth. In practical terms, this means that both partners continue pursuing their own passions and goals even within the relationship. They may share a larger mission together, but they also maintain personal interests and creative pursuits. One person might focus on artistic expression while the other explores teaching or mentorship. One might enjoy solitude and reflection while the other thrives in social environments. Instead of seeing these differences as obstacles, they recognize them as opportunities for learning and balance. Because each person brings unique perspectives and strengths to the relationship. This diversity creates a dynamic environment where both individuals continue expanding their understanding of life. It also prevents the relationship from becoming stagnant. When two people believe their partner must fulfill every emotional need, the relationship can become rigid and limiting. But when both individuals approach the connection as a space for growth, the relationship remains alive and evolving. Another important aspect of expansion is emotional accountability. In earlier stages of the twin flame journey, both individuals may have reacted strongly to emotional triggers. Conflicts could escalate quickly as old wounds were activated. But after significant healing, both partners develop a greater sense of responsibility for their emotions. Instead of blaming each other during moments of tension, they take time to reflect. They ask themselves questions like, why did this situation trigger such a strong reaction? Is this feeling connected to something from my past? How can I communicate my needs in a healthy way? This level of self-awareness allows them to navigate challenges without falling back into destructive patterns. The relationship becomes a safe environment for growth rather than a battlefield for unresolved wounds. Over time, this mutual expansion creates a partnership that feels deeply empowering. Both individuals feel supported in their personal journeys. Both feel free to express their authentic selves. And both recognize that the relationship is not a place where growth ends. It is a place where growth continues. This understanding transforms the meaning of union. Instead of seeing the relationship as a final destination, they see it as an evolving path. Each new experience, challenge, or opportunity becomes a chance to deepen their understanding of themselves and each other. Together, they explore new ideas, new projects, and new ways of contributing to the world. Their connection becomes a source of creativity and inspiration. And most importantly, it remains dynamic. Because when two people approach love as a process of continuous expansion, the relationship never stops evolving. It grows along with them. This is the deeper truth behind twin flame union. Not completion. Expansion. Two whole individuals choosing to walk side by side, not because they need each other to survive, but because together they can explore possibilities that neither of them could reach alone. And in that shared journey of growth, the connection becomes something truly extraordinary. A partnership that continuously opens new doors for both souls. When two twin flames finally reach a stable union and begin working toward a shared purpose, something remarkable starts to unfold. Their connection begins to create a ripple effect. At first, this ripple may seem small and almost invisible. It may begin with simple conversations, quiet moments of support, or the subtle influence of their presence in the lives of the people around them. But like a stone dropped into still water, the impact gradually spreads outward. One person influences another. That person influences someone else. And over time, the effects of their shared mission extend far beyond the boundaries of their own relationship. To understand this ripple effect, we first need to recognize how powerful human energy and behavior can be. Every interaction we have with others carries emotional information. The way we speak, the way we listen, and the way we respond to challenges all communicate something about how we experience the world. Most people do not consciously realize how deeply they are influenced by the energy of others. Yet on a subtle level, we constantly absorb signals from the people around us. If someone approaches life with anger, fear, or defensiveness, that energy often spreads through their relationships. Conversations become tense. Conflicts escalate more easily. Emotional walls begin to form. But the opposite is also true. When someone embodies calmness, compassion, and emotional awareness, that energy can shift the entire atmosphere of a room. People begin to relax. They feel safer expressing their thoughts. They become more open to understanding different perspectives. Now imagine two individuals who have both gone through profound healing and self-discovery coming together in a relationship. Their combined presence can create a powerful emotional environment. Instead of reinforcing cycles of fear or insecurity, their partnership reflects stability and understanding. And this stability becomes contagious. Friends who spend time with them may start noticing changes in themselves. They may find it easier to speak honestly about their feelings. They may begin approaching conflicts with more patience. Even subtle shifts in behavior can influence entire social circles. For example, imagine a close friend who is going through a difficult breakup. In the past, that friend might have been encouraged to react with anger, blame, or resentment. But when they talk with someone who has already navigated their own deep healing journey, the conversation takes a different direction. Instead of fueling negativity, the twin flame couple may encourage reflection. They might gently ask questions like, "What do you think this experience is teaching you? Is there something about this relationship that helped you understand yourself better? What kind of love do you truly want to create in the future?" These kinds of questions do something powerful. They shift the focus from blame to growth. And that shift can change the entire emotional trajectory of a person's healing process. Now, imagine this kind of influence repeating again and again. One conversation leads someone to reflect on their patterns. That reflection leads them to make healthier choices. Those healthier choices improve their relationships with others. And those improved relationships influence even more people. This is how the ripple effect expands. It rarely happens through dramatic events. More often, it spreads through small moments of awareness and compassion. Twin flames who share a mission of healing or inspiration often become catalysts for these moments. But the ripple effect does not only occur through conversations or emotional support. It can also appear through creativity and expression. Many twin flames feel inspired to share their journey through art, writing, music, or storytelling. These forms of expression allow them to communicate insights that might be difficult to explain in ordinary conversation. A song about emotional transformation can touch someone who is struggling with heartbreak. A book about personal awakening can help someone realize that their confusion is part of a larger growth process. A video about conscious relationships can introduce new perspectives to people who have never considered the deeper dynamics of love. Creative expression allows the ripple effect to travel far beyond immediate social circles. A single message shared online can reach thousands, or even millions, of people around the world. Someone on the other side of the planet might encounter that message at exactly the moment they need it most. And that moment can change their perspective on life. This is why the shared mission of twin flames often feels larger than their individual lives. They begin to realize that the purpose of their connection is not only personal fulfillment. It is contribution. Their relationship becomes a channel through which healing energy, wisdom, and inspiration can flow outward. Another important aspect of the ripple effect is that it encourages collective growth. When people witness examples of conscious relationships, it challenges long-held assumptions about love and partnership. Many individuals grow up believing that relationships are naturally filled with drama, jealousy, or power struggles. They may assume that emotional conflict is unavoidable. But when they see a couple who approaches challenges with calm communication and mutual respect, it introduces a new possibility. It shows that love can evolve beyond those patterns. And when people begin believing that healthier relationships are possible, they start seeking new ways of relating to others. They become more willing to work on themselves. They become more open to learning about emotional awareness. They become more intentional about the kind of partnerships they create. In this way, the ripple effect extends beyond individual relationships and begins influencing cultural attitudes toward love and healing. Of course, twin flames do not need to actively pursue this influence for it to occur. In many cases, the ripple effect happens naturally. Simply living with awareness and authenticity creates change. For example, imagine a twin flame couple raising children together. Instead of teaching their children that love must involve sacrifice or emotional suppression, they demonstrate healthy communication and mutual respect. Those children grow up with a completely different understanding of relationships. When they form partnerships later in life, they carry those values forward, and the cycle of conscious love continues. This generational impact is one of the most profound ripple effects of all. It shows how the healing work of two individuals can influence not only their own lives, but the lives of future generations. Over time, twin flames often begin to recognize that their union has a responsibility attached to it. Not a burden, but an opportunity. An opportunity to contribute to a world that is slowly learning how to heal emotional wounds and build more compassionate relationships. This awareness encourages them to live with intention. They become mindful of how their actions, words, and choices affect others. They recognize that every moment of kindness, patience, and understanding adds another ripple to the water. And those ripples never truly disappear. They continue traveling outward, touching lives in ways that may never be fully visible. Someone who receives compassion during a difficult moment may one day offer that same compassion to someone else. Someone who learns about emotional healing may help a friend overcome their own struggles. Someone who feels inspired by a story of transformation may begin their own journey of self-discovery. In this way, the ripple effect continues expanding long after the original moment has passed. And it all begins with two souls who chose to heal themselves. Two individuals who faced their fears, embraced growth, and built a relationship grounded in awareness and purpose. Their union becomes more than a personal connection. It becomes a source of change, a starting point for countless ripples moving outward into the world. And while they may never see every life their influence touches, the impact of their shared mission continues spreading, quietly, steadily, and beautifully. At this point in the conversation about twin flame union and shared soul missions, an important question naturally arises. What does all of this mean for you? It is easy to listen to stories about spiritual connections, healing journeys, and purposeful unions and feel inspired by them. But the true power of these ideas does not come from simply understanding them intellectually. Their real power comes when they encourage reflection. Because every person watching or listening to this message is walking their own unique path. Some of you may already feel that you are on a twin flame journey. Perhaps you have experienced the intense recognition, the emotional triggers, and the periods of separation that often define this connection. Others may simply be exploring the idea for the first time, curious about whether such a relationship could exist in your life. And some may not relate to the twin flame concept at all, but still feel drawn to the deeper themes of healing, growth, and purposeful relationships. No matter where you stand, the most valuable step you can take is not to search for external confirmation. It is to ask yourself meaningful questions. Questions that open the door to self-awareness. Questions that invite you to explore the deeper patterns shaping your life and relationships. So, let us begin with the first question. What has your journey been teaching you? Often, when people experience emotional pain in relationships, the immediate reaction is to focus on the other person. Why did they behave this way? Why did the relationship end? Why did they hurt me? These questions are understandable. They arise naturally when we feel confused or wounded, but they rarely lead to true clarity. A more powerful question is this: what lesson might this experience be revealing about me? Perhaps the relationship showed you patterns of attachment you had never noticed before. Perhaps it revealed fears of abandonment that trace back to earlier moments in your life. Or maybe it highlighted strengths you did not realize you possessed, the ability to endure heartbreak and still continue growing. When we begin viewing our experiences through this lens, Relationships transform from sources of pain into teachers of awareness. The next question to consider is this: are you seeking completion from someone else, or are you discovering your own wholeness? As we explored earlier, one of the most important lessons of the twin flame journey is that no one else can complete us. Yet many people enter relationships hoping that another person will fill emotional gaps within them. They hope their partner will provide constant reassurance, happiness, or purpose. But this approach often creates pressure and imbalance. True connection becomes possible only when each individual learns to stand fully in their own identity. So, ask yourself honestly, do I feel whole on my own? Do I have passions, goals, and interests that exist independently of any relationship? Am I building a life that feels meaningful regardless of whether someone else is present? These questions are not meant to create judgment or self-criticism. They are invitations to explore your own inner stability. Because the stronger your sense of self becomes, the healthier any future relationship will be. Another powerful question is this: what kind of love do you truly want to experience? Many people grow up surrounded by examples of relationships shaped by fear, control, or emotional conflict. Without realizing it, they begin to assume that these patterns are simply part of love. But conscious relationships, whether twin flames or not, show us that love can exist in a very different form. Love can include honesty without cruelty, support without dependency, freedom without distance. Imagine the kind of partnership that would allow you to grow, express yourself authentically, and pursue your life's purpose while feeling emotionally supported. What would that relationship look like? What qualities would define it? And perhaps most importantly, what qualities would you need to embody in order to create it? Because the relationships we experience often mirror the energy we bring into them. If we carry unresolved wounds, fear, or insecurity, those patterns may appear in our partnerships. But when we cultivate self-awareness, compassion, and emotional responsibility, we begin attracting relationships that reflect those same qualities. Another question to reflect on is this: are you allowing your experiences to expand you, or are you allowing them to close your heart? Painful relationships can sometimes cause people to withdraw from emotional openness. After experiencing betrayal or heartbreak, it may feel safer to build protective walls around the heart. And while these walls can provide temporary security, they also limit the possibility of deeper connection. Growth requires a different approach. It asks us to learn from our experiences rather than allowing them to define us. It invites us to remain open to love while also developing the wisdom to choose healthier relationships. This balance between openness and discernment is one of the most important skills on any personal journey. Finally, there is one more question worth considering. What impact do you want your life to have on others? Whether or not you believe in the concept of twin flames, every individual has the ability to influence the people around them. The way you speak to others, the way you handle challenges, and the way you pursue your personal growth all send messages to the world. Some people choose to spread negativity or resentment. Others choose to cultivate understanding and compassion. Which path do you want your life to reflect? Imagine the ripple effect of living with intention. Imagine becoming someone who listens deeply, communicates honestly, and approaches relationships with emotional awareness. The people around you would feel that difference. Friends might begin opening up about their struggles because they feel safe in your presence. Family members might feel inspired to heal old conflicts. Even strangers could encounter moments of kindness that shift their perspective on life. These changes may seem small, but collectively they shape the emotional landscape of the communities we live in. And when many individuals begin choosing growth and awareness, the impact becomes powerful. This is one of the deeper messages hidden within the twin flame journey. It reminds us that relationships are not only about personal fulfillment. They are opportunities for transformation. Every relationship we experience has the potential to teach us something valuable about ourselves. Every challenge we face can become a catalyst for deeper understanding. And every moment of healing creates the possibility of helping others heal as well. So, as you reflect on your own journey, remember that the most important answers will not come from external sources. They will emerge from your own willingness to look inward, to ask honest questions, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to embrace the growth that follows. Because in the end, the purpose of any spiritual or emotional journey is not simply to find the right person. It is to become the person capable of creating conscious love, meaningful connections, and a life that inspires others. And that journey begins with a single step: the willingness to ask yourself the right questions. For many people on the twin flame journey, the idea of union is often imagined as the final destination. It is portrayed as the moment when the pain ends, when separation dissolves, and when two souls finally live happily ever after. But the deeper truth of the twin flame path reveals something far more profound. Union is not the end of the journey. Union is the beginning of the mission. When two twin flames reach a state of energetic balance, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The intense emotional storms that once defined the connection start to quiet down. The desperate longing that once consumed their thoughts softens into a calm, steady presence. Instead of chaos, there is clarity. Instead of obsession, there is peace. Instead of chasing and running, there is mutual understanding. And within that peaceful space, a new realization begins to emerge. The love between them was never meant to stay contained between just two people. It was always meant to expand. It was always meant to serve something greater. The moment when love becomes service. At some point after union stabilizes, many twin flames begin to feel a subtle but persistent calling. It doesn't always appear as a dramatic spiritual awakening. Often, it begins as a quiet whisper inside the heart. A desire to help others heal. A desire to share the wisdom gained from their journey. A desire to create something meaningful together. They may ask themselves questions like, why did we go through so much pain to find each other? Why did the universe push us to confront our deepest wounds? Why did we have to transform so much before we could finally stand side by side? Slowly, the answer becomes clear. Their journey was preparation. Every heartbreak, every lesson, every moment of separation was shaping them into people capable of guiding others through similar darkness. Their love was never meant to be only personal. It was meant to be purposeful. The power of living example. One of the most powerful ways twin flames serve their shared mission is not through grand spiritual teachings, but through something much simpler. They become a living example of transformation. People who encounter them may notice something different about their energy. There is a calmness in the way they interact with each other. There is a deep respect in the way they communicate. They do not compete with one another. They do not try to control one another. Instead, they support each other's growth. Their relationship becomes a reflection of emotional maturity, spiritual awareness, and unconditional acceptance. And others begin to feel inspired simply by witnessing it. Sometimes a friend might say, "I've never seen a couple communicate like you two do." Or someone might quietly observe how disagreements are handled with patience rather than anger. These moments might seem small, but they carry powerful energy. Because in a world where relationships are often filled with fear, insecurity, and control, witnessing two people who genuinely uplift one another can be deeply healing. Without even realizing it, their connection begins to influence others, turning pain into wisdom. Another important part of the shared twin flame mission is storytelling. Many twin flames eventually feel called to share their journey, not because they want attention or recognition, but because they know that somewhere out there, someone else is experiencing the same confusion they once felt. Someone else is questioning their sanity. Someone else is wondering why this connection feels so intense, so overwhelming, and yet so impossible to escape. When twin flames speak openly about their experiences, the separation, the healing, the inner transformation, they offer something incredibly valuable: perspective. They help others understand that the journey is not about suffering endlessly. It is about awakening. They show that healing is possible. They remind others that growth often emerges from the most painful chapters of life. And in doing so, they transform their personal struggles into collective wisdom, creating together. Many twin flames also discover that their shared mission involves creating something together. This creation can take many forms. Some couples start spiritual platforms where they guide others through healing practices. Some become artists, writers, or musicians who channel the depth of their journey into creative expression. Some focus on helping people through coaching, therapy, or community building work. Others may simply build a life that radiates kindness and stability within their family and local community. The form of the mission is different for everyone, but the underlying purpose remains the same: to bring more awareness, compassion, and healing into the world. What makes this collaboration unique is the energetic dynamic between the two partners. The divine masculine often brings structure, direction, and grounded action. The divine feminine often brings intuition, emotional intelligence, and creative flow. When these energies work together in harmony, something remarkable happens. Ideas turn into reality. Dreams turn into action. Vision becomes manifestation. The ripple effect of twin flame union. One of the most beautiful aspects of a balanced twin flame union is its ripple effect. Just like a stone dropped into water creates expanding circles, the energy of two aligned souls can influence far more people than they realize. Their growth encourages others to begin their own healing journeys. Their honesty gives others permission to be vulnerable. Their compassion reminds others that love does not have to be painful to be powerful. Even small acts like offering support to someone in a difficult moment can create meaningful change. This ripple effect is how the twin flame mission quietly spreads through the world. Not through force,
not through ego,
but through presence. The importance of continuing personal growth. However, one important truth remains: the journey does not stop after union. In fact, personal growth becomes even more important. Twin flames must continue to evolve individually if they want their shared mission to remain healthy and balanced. Because if one partner stops growing, the dynamic can fall back into imbalance. That is why conscious communication, emotional honesty, and spiritual awareness remain essential. Union is not a static state. It is a living, breathing process. Both individuals must continue nurturing their own inner alignment while supporting each other's evolution. In many ways, the relationship becomes a lifelong classroom where both partners keep learning about love, patience, and authenticity. Reflecting on your own journey. If you are currently on the twin flame path, you might wonder where you are in this process. Maybe you are still in separation. Maybe you are focusing on personal healing. Maybe you have not yet met your twin flame, but something inside you feels like it is preparing for a deeper connection. No matter where you are, one question is worth reflecting on. What if your journey is not only about finding someone? What if it is also about becoming someone? Someone capable of loving deeply. Someone capable of healing old wounds. Someone capable of helping others rise through your own transformation. Because the truth is, the shared mission of twin flames begins long before union ever happens. It begins the moment you choose growth over fear. The true meaning of twin flame union. In the end, twin flame union is not about perfection. It is not about escaping challenges or living in constant bliss. It is about something much more meaningful. It is about two souls choosing to grow together instead of growing apart. It is about turning pain into wisdom. It is about transforming love into service. When two people reach that level of awareness, their connection becomes more than just a relationship. It becomes a force for healing, not only for themselves, but for everyone whose life they touch. If this message resonates with you, remember this: your healing matters. Your growth matters. Every step you take towards self-awareness contributes to something bigger than you may realize. And if you are truly on the twin flame path, the love you are cultivating within yourself today may one day become a light that helps guide others through their own darkness. So continue the journey, continue the healing, and trust that the love meant for you will always find its way when both souls are ready. If this video helped you understand the deeper purpose of twin flame union, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And in the comments, share your experience. Where are you on your twin flame journey right now? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.
Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message resonated with your soul, remember to subscribe and continue this journey with us here on Twin Flame Journey. And always remember, what is meant for your soul will always find its way back to you.